A version of this story appeared in CNN's What Matters newsletter. To get it in your inbox, sign up for free here. I was already preparing an edition of the What Matters newsletter on Monday about how President Donald Trump's decision to appoint businessmen and political allies to revamp and reduce government work has led to an atmosphere of amateurism. However, all the examples I had gathered pale in comparison to the revelations in a news story published by The Atlantic with the headline, "The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans." More specifically, the official responsible for texting the war plans to a journalist appears to be Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. He was confirmed by the Senate, despite significant concerns about his lack of official experience. Hegseth's most recent role before leading the U.S. military was as a Fox News host. The story features all the prominent figures in charge of national security for Trump. Somehow, Jeffrey Goldberg, the journalist, seems to have been added by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz to a group chat on the private, encrypted messaging platform Signal. The group included profiles that appeared to be associated with Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Hegseth, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, White House Advisor Stephen Miller, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and others. A spokesperson for the National Security Council later confirmed that the message chain seemed to be authentic and stated they were investigating how Goldberg's number was added. The discussions included a moment where Vance expressed opposition to a potential strike against Houthi rebels in Yemen to clear up shipping routes through the Suez Canal. Vance noted that Europe, whose trade is more reliant on the Suez Canal than the U.S., would benefit more than the U.S. One U.S. company that felt the impact of the attacks on shipping routes is Tesla, led by chief U.S. government cost-cutter Elon Musk. Tesla was forced to shut down production at its Berlin Gigafactory for a time in January due to supply chain problems caused by the attacks. Vance also questioned whether President Donald Trump understood how a strike to ease global trade would contradict his America First policies, urging other top officials to hold off on the strikes. Goldberg, initially skeptical that top U.S. officials would accidentally add him to a chat discussing sensitive and classified data about a forthcoming military attack, thought the messages might be an elaborate prank until Hegseth transmitted detailed war plans and mentioned that the strike was imminent. A few hours later, Goldberg searched online and learned that the strikes were occurring. The national security principals responded to news of the strike's success with emojis and congratulations. Goldberg subsequently removed himself from the chat. There are many questions here. Why were these officials using a messaging app known for its disappearing messages and operated by a private nonprofit? This could potentially violate both laws requiring record retention and, more importantly, laws related to classified information. There are clearly defined protocols for discussing classified information. Why is Hegseth so comfortable transmitting war plans in an unclassified setting? We don't know the exact nature of what Hegseth sent. Goldberg did not publish it. His article mentions that it included information about targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and attack sequencing. Will there be consequences for this apparent breach? This type of breach might typically lead to firings or legal action. Normally, Congress, which is supposed to provide checks and balances on the executive branch, would quickly launch an investigation into what seems to be such a drastic security breach. It's unclear if that will happen now when Republicans hold a slim majority in both the House and Senate. What about the obvious irony here? When Trump was initially asked about The Atlantic's report at the White House, he criticized the magazine, but said he was not familiar with the report. Trump should be familiar with how things are supposed to work regarding sensitive material, since he was charged with mishandling classified data after he left the White House in 2021, and before he won the 2024 election. The case was dismissed by a judge he appointed. Additionally, Trump repeatedly attacked Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server during the Obama administration, particularly criticizing her for discussing classified material in emails. Now, the leaders of his entire national security team appear to have been on an unclassified system discussing very sensitive material. What other examples are there? There are many instances where a lack of experience by an official or unconventional methods have led to problems. There were plenty more examples from earlier in Trump's administration, such as when Musk's Department of Government Efficiency pushed for the firing of nuclear safety officials, and then the Department of Energy had to call them back to duty. Part of this is what Trump's supporters perhaps wanted when they voted for a candidate who promised to drain the swamp. However, nobody voted for Goldberg to be texted war plan.